Welcome to the Rebel Podcast. Today, learn how Debra Danielsen got scammed out of $250,000 during her interview with Waylon Carney.
Welcome to the Rebel Podcast. My name is Waylon. I'm the co-host today. We're talking about deconstructing fairy tales. When I was growing up, there were classic stories of unrealistic love featured in books, movies, and in TV shows. Magical boy meets girl and their eyes meet from across the room. You know, the yada 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 story. Of course, even Disney featured the unrealistic prince finds a poor girl abused and neglected. But Prince Charming comes and makes everything magical for a happily ever after. Truth is, people are lonely, and love can and often does suck. You ask me, how can I say this? Well, it happened to me. It happened to people I know, and it has happened to our host of the Rebel Podcast, Debra Danielsen. Today, 52% of Americans told Cigna they have feelings of loneliness occasionally. And since the pandemic, younger adults reported higher loneliness rates. Loneliness can cause people to make poor choices in relationships and leave people open to scams, especially on social media platforms and well-known dating sites. Debra Danielsen has written a book about her experience in hopes of helping others avoid the pitfalls. And I will interview Debra about her book, Vapor, on this episode of the Rebel Podcast.
Welcome to the Rebel Podcast. Today I'm Debra Danielsen, your host, and here with me is my co-host,
Waylon.
And Waylon and I are going to do something a little bit avant-garde today. So if you have anybody in the area listening to this that might be not into adult content, you might want to take a minute and switch that up. So we're going to talk about my book, Vapor. And Waylon has encouraged me to do this. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good idea.
Well, I think it's important because I think it's a universal story. I guess if you want to share maybe what the book is about, I think it's universal because so many people are online dating now, mm-hmm. and this is about what we call a romance scam, where people will prey upon people that are maybe lonely or just out there and not that don't maybe know what is on the other side, or not, or maybe just hoping for the best of who they're talking
Exactly. Believing the best.
Right, yeah.
Almost like you're living in a fairy tale because you watched too many Disney movies growing up.
Right.
And maybe you came from a family where, hey, you didn't have a lot of breakups, divorces, or if you did, they kept it quiet. But my family, being half Italian and half Dane, we didn't keep anything quiet. We talked, and we really had a good family. We were definitely kind and loving to each other. And my grandparents did everything and anything for us grandchildren, I guess, which kind of lent to the problem of a fairy tale existence, yeah. Right? So one of the cool things about growing up is that life changes and you go through seasons, and sometimes it's very exciting and you got all these cool things to do and you got friends, but then there's bad times. And I guess it's in the valleys of life that we learn our most valuable lessons. And I'm convinced that God puts us in those places at times because He wants us to look at ourselves and He wants us to say, what can I do better? Where did I misstep here? Or maybe it's to take some arrogance out of your life. But I was in a position where everything was hitting at once. I retired after 27 years in a career. I was not traveling. I was at home. My family was breaking up. I was going through a divorce, and I had been in a very bad marriage for at least 10 years. And then my children all left. So it was like a really low point in my life. And I wasn't working, and working had always been a really big deal for me. I loved working. I loved career work and traveling and, changing the world with the things I worked on. It was fun and it was wonderful. But then I found myself in a house filled with memories and nobody to share with.
Yeah, and you were alone. And you'd also, famously been on TV being not treated so nicely for a very long time. So I can only imagine how that weighed on your mind and your your feelings about yourself too, and what you thought people expected of you, or preconceived notions that people would have about you when you would go out to date or meet people.
Well, I actually had people that wouldn't date me, didn't want anything to do with me because I had been on MTV, and they didn't want anything in the limelight. Now, I don't know if it's because they were trying to hide something, but you got to first say, uh-oh, what's that
kind of a
about?
red flag, yeah. If you have nothing to hide, then why are you hiding?
Afraid, right? And we all love MTV. There's nothing wrong with MTV. I love it, and I love the people on MTV. So that was that was like shocking to me. I'm like, what?
Well, and it's no wonder that you turn to online dating, as a lot of people do, because it's hard to meet people now, and especially it would be as someone who was on TV all the time, and you weren't on TV as an actor, you were on TV as yourself,
right?
And exposing or maybe exposing isn't the right word, but
sharing
all of your family
ups and downs.
Ups and downs, yes, great way to put it. So
you could see my ex-husband we started filming at the end of 2008. And we started filming, and we filmed all the way through this. And when I wrote this book and this all happened to me, we were not filming. So my family wasn't around. I was separated from my granddaughter like I am today. And that's a very, very hard thing for me. And a lot of parents don't let their children socialize with their grandparents. There's a lot of problems in families in the United States that we all try to sweep under the rug, and we all try to act like we're a perfect family. Well, we aren't. We all have our warts, and we got to be honest,
Right.
We are human. We are human. So this book takes place in 2013, and it is a time where you're going to see that I'm going through the divorce, I'm going through all of these things. But then one day I decide, after being alone for so many years, now here's the problem. When you're married to somebody who's a narcissist and a user, they may not want you, but they may not want anybody else to have you. Mm-hmm. And if you're caught in that dilemma like I was, and I'd never been around that before, it was really hard for me to accept that. And he was always telling me, you're too fat, you're too this, you're too that, you're very critical, And every time I got an award or I did something to help the community, he would go do something, he would take an action, and it was intended to hurt me. So another affair, getting drugs, whatever. So enough said on that part of it. But then I decided, well, it's too small of an area around here. I'll just get on a dating app and I'll just go find a great person, right? I just felt like, this new online dating stuff is going to be the answer.
Well, and when the story in this book, when it happened, online dating was relatively new too.
No, it's very new.
And I know some people may read this book and think, what were you thinking? How did you not know? Or how were you duped? You're Debra Danielsen. How were you duped? You were a CEO. But this was early on in online dating, and people were not as savvy, or really recently is when we have learned about all these different scams and that people can, portray themselves as being from, Ohio or something, and they're actually in, someplace in Nigeria, or
You're like,
the Nigerian prince is not going to give you $1 million.
No, it's not.
So
well, here's something scary too. I mean, back then we didn't have sophisticated software that could do identity checks and that could look for scamming like they do today on these dating sites.
Yeah, and it certainly wasn't readily available then at all.
No.
And just the fact that it wasn't known that people were actually using these sites to prey on people and to scam people out of their money. And a lot of it now is it's elevated to people being blackmailed.
Oh yeah.
With their personal information or pictures, or and that's really common now. I think anyone that's probably done online dating has been a target of that. So
it's horrible.
Yeah.
But I think the worst story I had ever heard of was the one I read a week ago. And it's been in a lot of the magazines lately, but this woman had been married a long time. She was in her 50s, very attractive, and she decided after being alone for so many years, she was going to go, and she said, what the heck? I owe it to myself to be happy.
Yeah.
I'm going to get online and I'm going to date somebody. She did. And then they talked all the time, and then he decided that they should meet. And they met and they had sex, and I guess he was a little scary during that part, a little rough and wanting to like smother her or choke her. And she said, no, I'm not into these things.
Red flag.
Red flag. And then so this, the visit was over. She came back home. And then about 3 weeks later, he calls her and he says, hey, I bought a bus ticket. That's a worrisome thing right there, a bus ticket.
Or riding the bus. Wanting to travel by bus, that's a red flag.
Yeah. And nothing against Greyhound buses, but I'm telling you, if a guy's going to take care of you and marry you or be in your life, he should have more than a Greyhound bus fare.
Right. He's not running.
Anyway, he showed up at the house, her house. He didn't have a return ticket. And he started getting weird. And it was her 54th birthday. And on her 54th birthday, he wanted to have sex with her. And she said, no, I'm just really not feeling it right now. Anyway, he peed in her bed. Long story short, you go forward a couple of months. She finds out that this guy that she let in her house, who she eventually kicked out, is a serial killer.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so when I talk about online dating or the scams, or, this is way worse than Catfish on MTV.
Right.
We're just like, this book I had went out, and you'll see the information in here. There's a cybersecurity expert who actually wrote part of this book. In addition to that, I worked with the FBI, the CIA, our local police department, and the Royal Malaysian Police.
Wow.
Yeah, to write this book. So we're going to give you a few excerpts, and we hope that it'll help you if you're like in a situation now, or somebody who it is, and this sounds familiar. I hope you'll take action. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do a quick read here from chapter 6. It was exciting to hear about James' work. He had interesting clients and worked hard positioning the diamond quality and finding rare and beautiful diamonds for his clients in Saudi Arabia and other locations around the world. He would often discuss his favorite diamond with me. James loves pink diamonds. He explained how rare they are and how expensive. He told me that he owned a wonderful pink diamond. I told him that I had never seen or heard of a pink diamond, but loved the yellow, chocolate, and black diamonds that were here at the jewelry store in Omaha. So now we're going to read a little bit of text, a real text message that I sent to him. This was on Monday, July the 1st at 5:05 p.m. How did your pre-note go? Can you tell me your age and your height? I asked him to tell me where he worked, and this is the reply I got.
So he replied, July 1st, 2013 at 8:12 a.m. Hey, love, got your text. So sorry I didn't sleep straight away last night. Was up till late. Here's a link to my company website. I'm thinking about you and missing you so much. Falling like crazy for you, babe. Your man. So
this website, when I went to it, just FYI, it was there. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean anything, though. I want to tell you that. The website was professional. It showed all kinds of diamonds and gems and talked about the business. But any of that can be fake.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I couldn't wait for break time to arrive. I was so curious to learn about his company. When I pulled up the site, it was well made with lots of information about the business. I noticed a video and clicked on it. It was well done and beautiful, focusing on the quality and the care the company took in creating each diamond for that special someone. About halfway through the video, the man's voice in the voiceover said, "And our CEO, James Richardson, ensures each diamond is." Wow, I had to replay that a few times. James had never told me that he was a CEO of Centric Gems. I was totally speechless. He didn't act like the typical CEO I have worked with, and over the last 20 years of my career, it was amazing. James was humble, pathetic, and kind. I was so impressed that I couldn't wait to talk more with him further about why he never told me this before. So now we're going to go to another section. This is in chapter 12. I think more clearly when I'm walking in the garden or walking outside. So that evening I went for a long walk. It was a perfect summer evening. The temperature was 90 degrees with low humidity. Sweat was glistening off my face, and as I walked up the bluffs during my 4-mile trip, in every step of that trip, in my mind, I was breaking down each event from the beginning of our relationship and analyzing it in complete detail. Now, just a side note, the reason I was doing this is because a coworker of mine at that time kept saying, "I don't think so, Deborah. I think this might be a scam."
It wasn't adding up to them. Yeah.
So this is me trying to process it, right? The thoughts ran something like this. Here is the love of my life. He is perfect in every way. We met on match.com/chemistry.com. I reached out to him first. He responded to me. We are a 94% match according to Dr. Phil's personality profile test on the dating site. So that is why James thinks a lot like me. If he is trying to swindle me, wouldn't he have come after me first? I didn't have any revelations to these questions, but decided to be realistic and to keep my eyes and ears open when talking with James. I needed to have more information from him and to understand more about his lifestyle. I decided to open more conversations that would dig deeper into the events that were unfolding. I arrived back home from the walk around 9:30 p.m. It felt so good to sweat and exercise out all of the tension of the day. I slipped into a nice hot shower and laid down on the bed to relax. James called to tell me good night. We began to get into a deep discussion about his business affairs and his personal life. He opened up fully and began sharing his life with me. James told me previously that he had been divorced for 5 years and that he had had a house in Kansas City, Kansas. He had no children. His father had passed away unexpectedly about 10 years ago, but he loved him and admired him. James said, "I miss my dad. He came to me in a dream. Remember I told you that I had a sweet dream about you on the plane to Singapore?" So, all of that being said, I hope you'll read the book, and if you know anybody in a relationship that's questionable, get them the book, help them understand that there are people out there that will take advantage of you. I'm going to sing a song, and it's called
Believe.
Yes, because we do have to believe that there is good in this world. We do have to believe in ourselves. And never, ever, ever take what somebody did to you and think that that's a reflection on you. That's a reflection of them. I also wrote this book because there are a lot of people that get scammed that commit suicide. And we don't want anybody doing that.
No.
We want you to be an overcomer. And guess what? The story does have a happy ending eventually. You just got to get through it.
No matter how hard I try, you keep pushing me aside and I can't break through. There's no talking to you. It's so sad that you're leaving. It takes time to believe in. But after all is said and done, you're gonna be the lonely one. Oh, do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough, no. Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough, no. What am I supposed to do? Sit around and wait for you? Well, I can't do that. There's no turning back. It takes time to move on. It takes love to feel strong. And I've had time to think it through. And baby, I'm too good for you. Oh, do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough, no. Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough, no. And I know that I'll get through this, 'cause I know that I am strong. I don't need you anymore. 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 Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough. Do you believe in life after
So take your trouble, take that lemon and make it lemonade, and go and glow.
Go and glow.
Thanks for watching the Rebel Podcast. Share and subscribe. We appreciate it.